Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Jack and Joe show, where we're delighted to say, or at least I'm delighted to say, the international break is over, which is fantastic news because it means that Fulham are back. And as you can see from Jack's lovely array of shirts behind him,
Mhm.
he's very excited as well. Jack, how are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm good, thanks. It's over until the next one, of course, which is in just 4 games' time. It's such an annoying time of the year, and do you know what? Like all this chat on Twitter about Tuchel being, I honestly, I know I care about England a lot, but right now I couldn't care less, honestly.
I see your point. I see your point. For what it's worth, that news I at least found more interesting than I did either of the England games
Yeah,
that
that's
we've had
true.
to sit through. But it's a
That's
low,
a
low
go-to
bar. Oh yeah, yeah, for your sins.
for my
Um,
actual sins.
we're back this weekend. We've got Aston Villa, and this episode's going to be all about it. We're back at Craven Cottage, where we're unbeaten so far this season. Yes, it has only been 3 games, but we've been impressive in our home outings so far. Obviously, beating Leicester 2-1 in a scoreline which I do think flattered them. I do think that we were by far and away the better team that day.
Mhm.
And we drew 1-1 against West Ham in a scoreline that certainly flattered them. And I would even argue that the 3-1 win against Newcastle, that scoreline flatters them because we were so, so good in that first half. 2-0 at half time didn't really tell the story. Um, I've loved watching us at home so far, so I'm very excited. And it's fair to say, Jack, this is probably our biggest test at home so far.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that Aston Villa have just been incredibly impressive in basically nearly every game they've played this season. They've only lost one in all competitions, and that was against Arsenal, an Arsenal team who needed to avenge the 2 defeats they had to Villa last season and had so much of a point to prove, and actually did a really good job going to Aston Villa. They've just been really, really impressive. Even drawing to Man United, which obviously on like they would expect to win that game given Man United's form, but they were just coming off a 1-0 win against Bayern Munich where they put all their eggs in that basket really and gave away one of the most famous victories they'll have in recent history. The 2-2 draw to Ipswich was also another blip, but another team who went to Ipswich and struggled was us. And I don't think there's any shame in going to Portman Road right now and struggling to get a result. I think they make it really, really difficult the way they play. And they even what we've seen a lot of from Aston Villa this season is they've gone behind and still come back to get points, mostly wins. Um, they went behind against Wolves, they went behind against Everton, both at home, and came back to win. I think actually that might be the only 2 occasions that has happened. But
They did
even
go behind against Ipswich as well, though, and they got a draw, I suppose.
so there is some characteristics in that team. So even if Fulham were to go 1-0 up, I wouldn't be feeling like it was all rainbow and sunshines. I'd still feel we'd need a second and third to cement the 3 points. Joe, I'm really looking forward to this game. Not because of the fact that we haven't played in 2 weeks, of course, because of the fact that we're trying to build on that performance against Manchester City, but because we're at home and against anyone at home. And I said this last week, like against anyone, I don't fear, but
Yeah,
especially at home, just bring the game to them. And you look at the game we played against them last season at home. I think it was just a poor mistake from Robinson with the throw-in that gave away the
yeah.
ball, and they ended up scoring. Then Watkins gets through the middle just with one pass. It was fair enough and a good finish. Muniz got a goal back, and we should have drawn the game with Adama Traore. Had a couple of really good chances after making it 2-1. I think this is going to be a much trickier test, and I think from a Villa point of view, I'd be interested to hear the likes of Villa on tour or Dan Bardell, like the Villa fans who make content, what they think of this game, because I think they're going to be fearing it a little bit, and they have reason to, Joe.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that game last season, as you say, there was a point just before Villa went 1-0 up where I think we had a goal disallowed, and it was very, very tight offside call. And it's one of those games really where it was sort of to and fro. And I think we've really improved since then. I don't think that was us at our best. I think Villa have improved as well, but defensively, I do definitely think we can get at them. Obviously, clean sheet against Bayern Munich, you cannot argue with that. They won 1-0, a famous result for them. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from that, they've obviously got the clean sheet against United from just before the international break started. And aside from that in the league, no other clean sheets. Everyone scored against them, and they've conceded quite a few for a team that's riding so high in the league. They're in 5th place right now. They've let in 9. We've let in 8. 3 of those were against City. And as you say, you can definitely get at them. And when you factor in some of the injuries that they've got, well, unfortunately come onto ours, shortly as well. But Onana doesn't look like he's going to be back, which, as you pointed out, means that it's probably going to be a pivot of Tielemans, who's been fantastic for them this season, and Ross Barkley. Now, you wouldn't say that on paper that's the most defensive-minded pivot in the world. Definitely something that we could maybe look to exploit, but obviously coming the other way, it's going to be very threatening. Obviously, Konsa went off against United as well with an injury. We're not 100% sure if he'll be back or not.
Yeah.
But let's face it, if he wasn't, that would be a boost. They had to play in their game against Ipswich, they had to play Diego Carlos, who obviously we were linked with in the summer before we got Anderson. And to be honest, he had a bit of a torrid time, especially for that equaliser from Ipswich with about 10, 15 minutes left. He really got just outpaced and outthought from the Ipswich forwards. Something that we can definitely take advantage of as well. So I'm excited to see us match up against this Villa team who've been great so far, but I think we have as well, and perhaps just haven't got as many plaudits based on the opposition that we've beaten. So it's not as much of a story when, we win 2-1 against a Leicester, for example. But if you look at the Villa results, a 3-2 win, struggling over the line against Everton with a wonder goal from Duran, who does terrify me, I have to say, because he's just a chaos merchant that is in the form of his life. And just, you never know what he's going to do. But let's face it, they struggled over the line in that one. They really struggled over the line against Wolves. They were really poor that day. In the first half, I think they had 1 or 2 shots, neither on target. They were getting well and truly, the game was getting controlled by a Wolves team that's not been great this season. They made some defensive subs. Gary O'Neill's been getting a few pelters for that. They sat back and the pressure told in the end. But I think that we can take the game to Villa. I think we have to do it in a sensible fashion like we did against City, where at times you sit in, hold your shape and play on the break, because they've got great players going forward. Bailey, Philogen on the other side. You've got Watkins and Duran if he plays. You've got Rodgers just behind, who's had a fantastic season so far. And like I said, Tielemans and Barkley, that's pretty attacking for a midfield pivot, let alone when you've got Digne going on the left-hand side doing overlaps. So there's a lot to fear in terms of their players, but I would say that going the other way, if I was one of those content creators from Villa, I would definitely be calling out a few Fulham players that would strike fear into me. And at the moment, there's quite a few of them. And I'm really, really interested to see how we line up, because before that City game, it felt like our lineup was almost just set in stone. We made 2 changes all season. Now we've made 3, because Pereira stayed in midfield, Smith Rowe came out, and Sander Berge came in. The unfortunate news, Jack, is that Lukic has suffered an injury during the international break, and it's gutting, because he was in the form of his Fulham career. He was playing well for his country as well. We don't know how long yet, but we do think that it's almost certain that he'll be out for the next few weeks. Now, on paper, you think that Sander Berge has been brought in, he comes straight into the team. But I'd be interested to get your thoughts, because we do have other options. We do have Harrison Reed. We do have Tom Cairney as well. I would like to know what you think about the midfield 3, especially when you factor in the point that Smith Rowe was taken out of the starting 11 against Man City for a more defensive setup. Do we stick with something like that against Villa?
I still don't know. I've been trying to mull it over for the last few days. I think it definitely worked to have Lukic obviously alongside Berger when we played against Manchester City. I do think that the one thing we struggled at was right at the start of the second half. We changed some positions around and we struggled to get out, and that's when Kovacic found the space to score. Villa in transition are going to be extremely dangerous. If Tielemans picks up the ball and he finds either Bailey on one side or Philogen on another side, or Rodgers down the middle, or long ball towards Watkins, they just have lots of powerful attacking players who can hurt you. And I just wonder, because every time we've sort of spoke about this Fulham midfield, even from the start, not knowing how we were going to perform against Man United, we looked at Lukic, we looked at Pereira, we looked at Smith Rowe and thought, that's not a balanced midfield at all. We're going to get run over in transition so many times. And actually, it did happen against Man United. It happened against Man United, where they won the ball high up the pitch quite a few times and should have scored maybe a couple of times. I know those mistakes came from Bernd Leno as well, and from the defence. But every new opposition brings a new sort of okay, I know I said fear any opposition, but it does worry me that Fulham. There's nothing worse than losing a game knowing that you've been the architects of your own downfall, and you just never know with the way that Villa would press you, with their attacking players, with the way we're going to sit on the ball and how we're going to hold the ball, that we could be forced into making mistakes. That being said, Sander Berger's had a really, really good international break. The first game he played for Norway, apart from Erling Haaland, he was man of the match apparently. And I'd be quite comfortable right now. I'd be okay with starting Berger, Pereira, and Smith Rowe. So Smith Rowe and then Pereira's the 10. You made a really good point to me when we were debating this in the group chat, that when Lukic came off at halftime against Newcastle, we went on to still win the game. Okay, we weren't brilliant in the second half. We did lack a little bit, but I think they can more than hold their own. There is another option to be slightly more conservative and play a Tom Cairney or Harrison Reed alongside Berger and drop one of Smith Rowe or Pereira. Probably would be Smith Rowe because Pereira, like Marco loves Pereira and Pereira loves to press. So I think that would be a sensible option. It's an interesting one, but for the sake of bravery and for the sake of bringing the game to Aston Villa, I think you've got to play Smith Rowe and I think you've got to play Pereira at home to try and get at this Villa team. If it's a case of we're at home against a Villa team, I think it's like, well, we're going to try and outscore you rather than we're going to try and conserve and try and nick a 1-0 win. I think Fulham are an entertaining team. I do think Villa are one of the most entertaining teams to watch in the Premier League. If Villa are playing a 5:30 and I'm not really doing anything, I will watch Aston Villa. It is worth mentioning, not only have they got Onana out, they've still got Boubacar Kamara out. Konza, like you mentioned, Jacob Ramsey, it could be a doubt as well. McGinn could still be out, and they've still got Olsen and Tyrone Mings out as well. They've got a lot of players who are, once they get Boubacar Kamara back and McGinn and Ramsey and they get everyone fit, that squad is definitely one of the best in the Premier League, in my opinion. The attacking players they've got is just absolutely insane. So we are quite lucky to be playing at this time. But to be missing Lukic and maybe have Anderson out as well because he had to withdraw from Denmark is a huge blow. And Fulham, who have been pretty lucky with injuries in the last few seasons. Okay, we've had Willian out at times and Jimenez has been out at times and Traore as well. There's the ones that and obviously Pereira broke his ankle at one stage and Tim Ream. But there hasn't been a time where Fulham have had loads of injuries out at the same time. There's always been one player here, one player there. This is a good time to play Villa, but if we had Lukic, I'd feel so much more confident that Fulham could get a result. And I can't believe I'm saying that after, performances like Chelsea away, where he came off the bench and was completely rabbit in the headlights. People were calling for Lukic to go, and now for me, he's top 3 names on the team sheet for me.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, if we didn't have Anderson as well, we don't know anything other than he withdrew from the squad, as a lot of players do, and hopefully it's nothing or at least something very minor. Because the difference that would make to our build-up is incredible. Like the drop-off is huge. Diop's been great defensively when called upon this season, but in terms of actually hurting Villa going forward, that all starts at the back with Anderson. And when you already don't have Lukic there, he's been great at progressing the ball, coming deep and playing it between the lines. It's another big loss. So I agree with you. I would like to see a midfield of Berger, Pereira and Smith Rowe, the team that played the second half against Newcastle, like you said. And the reason for that is, let's face it, we weren't our best second half against Newcastle, but we still drew that half 1-1 and controlled it and had the best chances. And like I was saying to you the other day, Jack, privately, I think that Newcastle midfield on paper is better than the Aston Villa one we're going to face in a few days without Onana, for example. So if they can control the game against Newcastle, I would back them to control the game against that Villa midfield. I also think that starting Harrison Reed also, yes, it gives us a bit more solidity, but also does it sort of signify that we're slightly happier with a point? I don't think that's the way that Silva sort of sets up his teams. Like you say, he's brave. He'll want to win at home. He wants to win every game. And I can't see him doing that. I think that maybe if we were playing Man City away on the weekend and Lukic was out, then we'd look at a Berger and Reed next to him situation. But I think because we're at home, he'll go the more attacking 3. And we need to see Smith Rowe come back in 100%, but also Pereira was great against City, doesn't deserve to be dropped. Obviously, we were just speaking off camera that a couple of our players scored in the international break. Pereira's goal at the time of filming last night was unbelievable. I mean, where's that come from? A wonderful finish for Brazil. Jimenez as well was magical, because that's the next question, Jack. Maybe it isn't a question now, but the front three, we also have Harry Wilson, who's done very well for Wales on international duty. Mooney's obviously got his goal against City coming off the bench. Traore, Adama, fantastic performance against City, but without the end product. What's your front three for this game? Because I think the back four speaks for itself. If Anderson is fit, he plays. If Anderson isn't, Diop plays. But the front three, I think there is slightly more debate. I personally, before you say anything, believe it will be unchanged. I can't see it diverting from the Jimenez in the middle, Adama on the right, and Iwobi on the left. But I'd be very interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, my only worry about this is today is Wednesday and the game is on Saturday, but Robinson's going to have to travel home. Jimenez is going to have to travel home, and that's just quite a lot of I just remember that game we played against Blackpool where we had Tim Ream and Robinson playing at the back, and they very recently travelled. They were basically still jet lagged from international duty with the USA, and we lost 1-0 and we were terrible that day. I don't necessarily for one moment think that's going to happen again in terms of Robinson's such a better athlete than he was back then. Raul Jimenez is on great form and he'll just be buzzing off that goal. I mean, and then the assist he got last night, could you imagine? I would say the Mexico versus USA is quite a big fixture in the international context. To score and assist and to score a free kick of that magnitude. And then, like I say, Pereira as well coming back from Brazil. These are all heavy travellers. And with Muniz, who's been at the training ground for the last 10 days and would have worked with Marco, there is an argument to say that Muniz and his scoring against City could come into the team. However, it would be very harsh to drop Jimenez, I think. And scoring one goal off the bench from Muniz doesn't necessarily warrant you to replace a player who's basically in the form of his life right now. I think maybe if Jimenez hadn't scored that free kick or hadn't assisted that goal, I'd make more of a point that Muniz should come in. But actually, Jimenez is right now in a bit of a purple patch. And I think we need to see him play on Saturday. I agree. I think Iwobi left and Adama right. Harry Wilson has played well for Wales, and I'm seeing all these Welsh fans tweet about how Fulham are not playing him. Well, if you watch Fulham and you watch Wales, you'll see two very different Harry Wilsons. It's frustrating how people just go, well, Wilson's just scored against Montenegro. Why is he not playing for Premier League Fulham? Well, because one, it's a penalty against Montenegro, and two, he's probably one of the best players in a not very good Wales team, in my opinion. Whereas when Fulham, with their attacking threats, with Adama and the pace that he brings off straight from the off, and you've got Iwobi who loves to make runs inside and driving runs through the middle and driving runs down the left-hand side and linking up with Robinson, they're just better threats than Wilson. Until I see Wilson come off the bench or maybe even get 30 minutes here or there, well, that would be from the bench, I suppose, and score 2 goals and assist one or get 1 goal and assist and really change my mind about him, I'm always going to pick the players who are right now for club on form. I don't want to be harsh on Wilson, but it annoys me how Welsh fans just have this very tunnel vision perception of him and go, well, if he's playing well for Wales, that means why is he not playing for? They're two very different things, completely different systems and completely different managers. And Silva has his preferences. I love Adama Traore, and given what happened against Man City, he'll want to reply and bounce back with a bang. So benching him would be so counterproductive.
Yeah, 100%. He's got a point to prove. Obviously, we had that miss against Villa last year, so even a point to prove from that. He came off the bench in that game and couldn't slide it past Martinez. I'm excited for this game, Jack. In terms of score prediction, I'm predicting a few goals here, and that's sort of regardless of if Anderson is back or not. Just because I think that Villa have got some great forward players. I think that so have we. And I think that this could be a 2-2 draw, and I think that would be an okay result. I don't want to lose this. That's my main priority. I want to keep the unbeaten run at home going. I think that bettering the result that we got in this one last season would be a positive. Obviously, we lost 2-1. If we could win it, amazing. That'd be a fantastic result and our best result of the season so far, due to the level of opposition. But yeah, I think ahead of this run of games where we've got some games on paper where you think we can get something here from every game, this should be one of them as well. And I hope we can get a nice unbeaten run going once again.
Yeah, it'd be good to get back to beaten ways or winning ways. I actually had 2-2 in my head as well. So we're basically on the same page here. I do think it could be quite a back and forth to and fro game where I think both teams will have so much attacking quality and there will be goals. Ollie Watkins is just one of the best strikers in Europe right now. John Duran, of course, off the bench. They've got players in and around the box. You know, if Rodgers doesn't play, it'll be Bailey. Philogene loves to cut in. I mean, they've got some Jacob. Actually, it will be Rodgers. Sorry, I meant Jacob Ramsey, who still could be a doubt. And even Yuri Tielemans, who can just pick up the ball from deep and have a go. Barkley's got a shot on him. I mean, I say I don't fear, but there's some really good players. And I think Fulham will score goals as well. The way we play at home, get Robinson down the left-hand side, get Tete high up on the right, linking up with both wide men in Iwobi and Traore. Get Smith Rowe into good positions. Pereira get inside the box and try and make something happen. And obviously Jimenez, who's been so good for Fulham in recent games. 2-2 for me, definitely. I agree with you. However, I reckon it could swing either way and be 3-2, and hopefully it's to Fulham. Hopefully we can get like a last-minute goal or something. That would be so fun. That would be so fun, Joe.
That'd be so fun. I mean, I think that we've missed a thrilling game in our favour for quite some time. The Man City one was a bit of a thriller, went the other way. I would love it to be now. And yeah, a game that historically we've not got an awful record against Villa, but over recent years in the Premier League, it's not been amazing, aside from that win when Steven Gerrard got sacked. So I'd love to see us get another positive result against them on Saturday.
I agree. And that will be that for today's Jack and Joe show. Thanks so much for watching. Just a quick reminder that there is the live Fulhamish podcast at the Half Moon Putney on Saturday, straight after the Villa game. There are very limited tickets left, I believe. So if you haven't got them, then just try and I'll see if there's any available. That should be great. I was actually meant to be on the panel for that, but unfortunately I have different arrangements and cannot make it. But Joe, thank you so much for being here, and let's hope for a great result or a great performance or a great game against Aston Villa on Saturday.
Yeah, hopefully all three. In all honesty, that'd be fantastic. So yeah, if you're going to the game, enjoy it. If not, enjoy it from home or wherever you're watching, and come on, you Whites.
Yeah, club football is back, and well, Villa, Everton, Brentford, and then Crystal Palace. This is a really cool run of fixtures for Fulham before the next. For the next international break. And of course, it's worth mentioning that 6 fixtures have been changed now over the Christmas period, the December and January. December and January. What's most notable is that the Boxing Day fixture against Chelsea, albeit is on Amazon Prime, does not change. It's at 3:00, which is wonderful. And also, Joe, let me just get your thoughts quickly on Fulham versus Man United, Sunday, 7 p.m. kickoff.
I think you can imagine how hot my head was when I saw that, because I do not want to spend my Sunday evening in like the cold of January watching Fulham 1, Manchester United 2, Garnacho 90+6, if I'm being completely honest, because I just know that we'll be the better team in that game. Being a bit facetious, of course, but it's just a strange kickoff time. I was more relieved when I found out that we weren't the only one kicking off at that time. A very interesting one, Jack, you might not have seen, is that Chelsea-Brentford kicks off at 7 p.m. on one of the Sundays, I believe in December, but isn't televised. There's another 7 p.m. game on that Sunday. I think it's Southampton-Tottenham. So they've literally moved it to 7 o'clock on the Sunday and then decided not to put it on TV. I mean, at least that one's a bit more local. But, Southampton-Tottenham, even that's pushing it a little bit on a Sunday, in my opinion. And it's not exactly the longest journey in the world.
It was mentioned in the new television broadcast deal that there were going to be Sunday 7 p.m. kickoffs, and I feel like everyone's just forgot about it because the season started and there hasn't been any yet. So then suddenly we'll get hit with this massive surprise, and we go, oh. And to be fair, I feel more sorry for the Fulham fans than the Man United fans in this way, because if you live an hour or maybe over an hour away from Craven Cottage. There are people who have to get the train back to Wimbledon and then change from there. And there's all manner of journeys people have to make. People are not going to be getting home from that game until like gone midnight, and then they've got work on the Monday morning. It really is an inconvenience, and not let alone the Man United fans who've got to travel, but don't really have any sympathy for them, given they will just sort of pile into the Riverside stand anyway. So, we'll leave it for there. Interesting. We'll discuss it close to the time. We'll be back next week to review Villa, look ahead to Goodison Park against Everton, our final time at Goodison Park, which will be, dare I say, emotional, probably not. Just a shame we can't go to the Arkles before, pretty much, because neither of us are going to be in a position where we can either go to the game or go to the pub before the game, which is a massive shame.
It's a massive shame. The Arkles is still to this day the goated pre-match pub, so it's a big shame.
But we'll still have last season where we were there pre-match for the Everton quarter-final, pre-match for the Liverpool semi-final as well.
Yeah.
So maybe we needed a break from there anyway. Thanks so much for watching, and Joe, we'll speak next week.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Enjoy the game.